Hey, have you been dieting for the majority of your adult life? Are you constantly restricting or compensating for what you ate by overexercising or cutting back the next day? Do you struggle with overeating, emotional eating, binge eating, and you're constantly thinking about food? And all you really want is to have a healthy and balanced and normal relationship with food so that you can focus on things that actually matter to you, like your career and your family and your friends. If that sounds like you, then I want to invite you to my free 7-day event, my famous 7-day intuitive eating challenge. This is a week-long event where you are going to get free trainings, a community, worksheets, action steps, coaching from me, bonus trainings. I mean, this has everything that you need to get started on your intuitive eating journey. So if you know that you don't want to keep dieting for the rest of your life, but maybe intuitive eating seems a little bit overwhelming for you, intimidating, you don't know where to start, then you don't need to know where to start because I'm going to hold your hand and walk you through it. So if you want to sign up, it's absolutely free. All you need to do is commit your time. It starts on April 20th, and we already have so many amazing women who are jumping into the challenge. And so I would love to see you inside. If you want to sign up, you can go to sabrinamagna.com/challenge, or you can also head to the show notes where you will find that link. All right, beautiful. Let's go into today's episode where we're talking all about body image. Welcome to the Live Unrestricted podcast, a show where you'll learn how to heal your relationship with food and your body so that you can focus your time and energy on more important things like your personal growth. I'm your host, Sabrina Magna, food freedom coach, and my mission is to help make your life happier and healthier without stress, overwhelm, or guilt about food. If you love the show, please do go out and share it. And if you're looking for support with your relationship with food, details about my programs are in the show notes. Thanks for spending time with me today. Now let's jump in. Today, we are talking body image, one of my favorite topics to coach on, and we're doing coaching over coffee. I had so many amazing responses from you guys sending me DMs and emails about the last coaching over coffee segment that it was really valuable to hear the way that I coach my clients through their challenges. And so we are back with another coaching over coffee. And today we are focusing on body image. And so if you're someone who maybe your entire newsfeed looks like before and after pictures of other people and you're constantly comparing yourself to other people, if getting dressed in the morning is a nightmare because you look at all of this clothes that doesn't fit you and you have so much shame around your body, and maybe you keep this clothes around because you think one day I'm going to fit into this clothes. And so I'm just going to keep it in case. If on a daily basis, the thoughts around your body are predominantly negative, and if a lot of the choices that you make around food are dictated by how you think it's going to affect the scale, then this coaching session is going to be so valuable for you. So strap in. Give this podcast your full attention. Take some notes. What I like to do when I'm listening to podcasts is that I like to take out my notes app and just like write down whenever I hear something really valuable for me. I will pause and I will write down something so I can come back to it. So that is a great way to be an active listener and to apply these things into your own life. So let's get into the coaching session with Michelle, a member of my community. I think that she follows me on Instagram, and she applied for this coaching over coffee session and got selected. So let's get into it. And again, if you love these sessions, if you want to have a chance to participate in your own free coaching session on the podcast, then you can head to the show notes where you'll be able to apply and perhaps win a chance to have a free coaching session with me. So enjoy this conversation. Thank you so much, Michelle, for being here on today's Coaching Over Coffee. So as we get into it, why don't you start by asking what you are struggling with the most? What are some of your biggest questions that you have that I can help you with?
So I think, again, I'm pretty familiar with intuitive eating and the concept, and it totally makes sense. It's totally, but I still, struggle with the, and perhaps it's breaking old habits is when you go out to the restaurant and, I've never, I can count on one hand the number of times I've ordered French fries. I've always just had like five off my husband's plate, and that's totally fine. And I don't even know anymore if that's just an ingrained habit, or is that so I like that sort of thing. Whereas, if I really want those, like what, allowing myself to have those. So that's kind of the one piece I would say is like the biggest. I'll stop there and then I'll have another thought.
Yeah, definitely. And I am going to follow up with some questions to understand you a little bit better and where this all come from. So you mentioned that you're familiar with intuitive eating. So let's go back to when you got introduced to the world of intuitive eating. Tell me a little bit of your backstory when it comes to your relationship with food.
Okay. So I've had struggled with weight, like maintaining weight forever. And then I think after my last child, it was kind of like that. I was like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to go up and down anymore. And you know what? I don't need to go up and down anymore for pregnancy, etc. So now's my time to really spend the time to do. So just I've been able to pretty much maintain my weight-ish, I would say sort of that 10 pound would be the fluctuation. So I would say I probably over the years have done absolutely every type of diet when I was trying to lose the weight, but of recent, I would say in the last 10 years where I've been sort of in that maintaining zone with the 10 pound fluctuation, I would say, mostly from a weight loss perspective, I've been with Weight Watchers. That has been the most success, and the one that I sort of believe in as far as eating what you want, and just watching, tracking it, etc. And so it's probably been the last not that long, maybe 3 to 5 years, where when I read the book and went through the whole the workbook as well, which I don't even know who the author is of that book, and I thought I had it right here, but it doesn't look like you do. But I've done that whole the workbook and went through and go back to it from time to time. I'm actually did the audiobook as well because I was in there, so I've done it a couple times, read it over and done. That's kind of where
Perfect. So about 3 to 5 years is when you got introduced to the concept. Awesome. And was it because you got to a point where you felt like your relationship with food was problematic, was interfering with your quality of life? Did it have anything to do with Weight Watchers? I know you mentioned that was the one you kind of stuck by the most. Like, what led you into deciding, because like it really is a 180 to go from a lifetime of dieting and deciding to go against everything that you thought was true around food. What triggered that for you?
I think it is this fluctuation of this, it's always, for me, it's been the number on the scale. So as soon as I know I've hit that number on the scale and I'm like, that's it. And so it was that up and down that and every time I would get to that number, I'd be like, here I go again. And so it was, I think that was sort of I don't want to do it anymore. I just want to, be where I'm at and just be, I'm healthy. I'm very active. I'm very fit. So it's kind of that was where I was like, you know what? It's exactly as you said, it's that let go of that diet mentality and let's move to a more just healthy eating. And, so that's probably, I definitely know I am an emotional eater for sure. And just when I transitioned into this to what I'm doing now, I lost my job at the hospital. I was packaged out. My mom passed away during that time. And then I found myself even just like going to, caught myself going, I'm eating because I'm emotionally stressed and I'm not hungry. So I definitely am aware that I'm an emotional eater from being triggered from that.
Okay. Gotcha. Amazing. And so when you were constantly going up and down in weight and you were doing all those different diets, how did you feel like it affected you, like your mental health, how you felt about yourself? Like, how did you feel like it affected your life?
Definitely. My husband could tell, right? It's like my emotional, my highs and lows for sure from how I felt about myself. And that's definitely one of the shifts that I've seen is with intuitive eating is that I am definitely not I don't have those same highs and lows. I don't beat myself up. We were just skiing for 4 days. We were away, and you know what? I knew we were going to be away, and so I knew I was going to indulge more than I would normally do, and it's like that's okay. You know what? So not less of those emotional peaks.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely more steady state, and also find I'm not. I used to be fixated in regards to, oh my God, we've got this social and there's going to be food. And so like I would be focused on so much on that. And now it's like, yeah, whatever. You know what?
Mm-hmm.
So I'd be like, what is there going to be for me to eat? What am I like? But now it's like, it is what it is. And you know what? I will eat or not eat, whatever. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so definitely my mindset is much more positive from that.
For sure. And I love doing these coaching sessions because I get to talk to people who are in all stages of their intuitive eating journey. Like I got to talk to Sarah a couple of days ago, who for her was really at the beginning stages. And so it's awesome to hear you going through it. And it's also helpful because a lot of people think that once you start diving into intuitive eating, it's like this light switch that goes off and overnight you're going to completely change your mindset. And you are a really good example of what a typical, of course, from what I understand, you didn't get any of the like professional support or do any programs to teach you all the steps. You did it on your own, which does kind of extend that journey for you, but it's doable. And you're showing that as well, that it's doable to do on your own. It just can take a little bit longer because we have a lot of blind spots that we don't see. And that's why I like doing these sessions because I get to see where you're getting stuck. And so let's go back to your question. So if you had to just reframe your question in like one sentence, what would it be?
When will this become a common place that it's not as like it still seems like work right now? When will this become commonplace?
Mhm. And what feels like work for you?
Well, it's just I feel that I'm just I still again I'll come back to that French fry analogy and whether that is habit or not. But those situations where sometimes I will, be at the restaurant and I would be like, I'm using the restaurant situation, but
Mhm.
you know what? Let's just say I've had lunch out and now we're out for dinner again. And in those situations, I may look at the menu from the perspective of not so much what I want, but
You
what's the
should.
best choice. That diet thought,
Okay.
I could have a salad with, chicken on it. So that's the
Yeah.
type of stuff that it's,
Okay.
that sort of, versus just going in and going, I feel like poutine today. I wouldn't like that. I would never order that. I don't like that. Maybe I
Absolutely.
have it once a year when I go to Quebec City. That's kind of the,
Yeah. So there's a
uh,
couple of things
Ontario's doesn't know
that
how to make it.
there's a couple of things that are coming up for me. So number one is you did mention that your weight has pretty much steadied ever since you started intuitive eating. Do you weigh yourself regularly?
So I weigh myself on once a week, and it's sort of like that, measure. Just of late, my trainer has challenged me to say, because it's higher than what I was when I was, I'm 35 or 45.
Yeah.
And so he's challenged me to say, like, you need to let go of that number because this is where you are now is where you should be. So, so in my mind, I still have 10 pounds that I'd like, because that's that number on the scale. Whereas he's like,
Right.
nope, you are where you need to be. And so, so yes, so I do weigh myself, and he would like me to get back to, he's like, what did you used to do? I'm like, I used to have a pair of pants. He's like, that's what you need to do. And he's like, but I don't have those pair of pants that I had or from when I was 10 pounds lighter. So I need to find a pair of pants where I could, the same, because I used that strategy forever because I went from being a chronic weigher, like chronic. And then I was like, I threw that out and then came back to just the once a week. And it was this pants that I tried on a
Mm-hmm.
regular basis. So,
Okay.
um,
So I'm already seeing one reason that you might still holding yourself back is because you're still subconsciously trying to in some way control what happens to your body.
mhm,
And this happens, there's a difference between having the intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. And for you, I'm sure that there definitely is some intrinsic motivation. You have definitely noticed how food makes you feel. You've connected to your body, but it's really hard to get to a place of complete peace with food if there's still that little voice in the back of your mind that is evaluating how that food might affect the number on the scale or might affect your body. Does that make sense so
mhm,
far?
totally, totally. Mhm.
And that piece is the to stop weighing yourself is definitely one of the hardest pieces of the journey because we think, well, actually, let me ask you, when you think of putting a stop to your weekly weighing habit, what comes up for you? What kind of emotions, fears come up for you?
So if I didn't have those pants that I was telling you about, so yeah, I'd be like, oh my God, I'm going to gain weight overnight. Or I'm going to be went higher. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So you're afraid that you would gain weight and maybe you would lose control of what your body does, correct? Okay.
Yes.
And why do you think that that would happen?
I just think it's just it grounds me each week to know. And again, and I'm not one to, I don't have to be the exact same. I have this, a 5 pound window, recognizing that, good just the way it is.
Hmm.
But I feel it's a grounding. It sets me, yep, I'm doing the right. So it provides me with reflection, so I can look back on the previous week and look at what I did, and okay, yep, so it's all, I'm
Hmm.
doing the right things. It's all good.
Okay.
So
So you're determining your success in your lifestyle based on how your body is being maintained instead of how you feel. Because
okay.
let's say at the end of the week, we no longer used this external tool for validation to determine, am I doing something right or wrong? Then what would be your only way of determining if the way that you're living your lifestyle feels good for you?
Well, I come back to those pants.
Right. And
Like if I
again,
had those check-in pants, yeah. So it's the same but different, right? It's not.
yeah.
I need to let go of that also.
Yeah, so what
Yeah.
I'm
I mean,
hearing is there's still a lot of work to be done on the body image side because it's
absolutely.
really hard to get to a place of real freedom that intuitive eating will give you of being able to go out to the restaurant and seeing french fries and not having the anxiety about ordering those french fries because you're no
Mhm.
longer worried about, okay, if I have these french fries, then how is this going to affect my weight when I step on the
Mhm.
scale? And
Mhm.
then what happens is you're able to tune inwards. And instead of making decisions based on either the scale or how it's going to affect how you feel in your pants, you're able to tune inwards and decide from your intuition and from your inner wisdom if you truly want to order those French fries. Because at the
Mhm.
beginning, you were saying how you're not even sure if it's out of habit that you don't order them or where that's coming from. And this is something that I talk about in the program with my clients is that it's not the actual decision that matters so much as it is the intention behind the
Mhm.
decision. So I'll give
Mhm.
you an example. For me, I don't handle fried food at all. It does not feel good for my tummy. But back in my dieting days, if I went to the restaurant, it was kind of like this switch that would go off that would say, okay, well, now you're at the restaurant. This is your cheat meal. So have the fried food and then just eat as much as you can, disregarding how my body would feel. And then I would go, and there was so much shame and guilt surrounding that food. Now, because I've been able to completely disconnect how foods are going to make my body look, and instead I'm able to connect back in on how are foods going to make me feel, I now know that I have full permission to order the calamari or the fries or the mozzarella stick. No one is telling me whether I can or can't. And there's no guilt or shame about ordering them and being afraid of, is this unhealthy or how's this going to affect my body? However, now I've taken my autonomy back because I can make the decision. I know that I could have the calamari. I know it's probably going to taste really good. However, I also am able to merge the knowledge of how it will make my body feel. And so that's one thing that's really important for people to understand about intuitive eating. It's not just the unconditional permission of I'm going to eat whatever I want whenever I want. There's that unconditional making peace with food aspect. But there's also the internal knowledge, and there's like that the general knowledge that we have about nutrition and how it's going to make us feel that goes into that as well. And so I could decide to have that food. I have full permission to, but what is the intention behind it? Right. And so am I choosing not to have it because I'm afraid of the calories and the health consequences, or am I choosing not to have it because I know that I have the rest of my day that I have to go around and visit, or I have things to do and I don't want to feel sluggish and have a stomach ache? And so the intention behind your choices is what's the most important, and the feelings associated with those choices. Does that make sense so far? Yeah. So going back to, we'll use that French fry example. When you're deciding not to have those French fries, if you're being fully honest with yourself, what do you think is the intention behind it?
Well, I don't order them. Because I always feel like if I have like 5 off my husband's plate, I'm content. And and similar to you, I know that if I have the whole order, I would eat them all and I will feel awful because I too have the same. So, but just, I'll say to him, well, you're going to have French fries, right? And then I will have, like I said, just like 5 off of his plate. And then that's, that. So, so I think it's kind of like, I want them, but I know I'm not going to, I can't have a plate because I know I'm not going to feel. So I don't know. What is that? Is that,
so that
I
right
think
there,
it's a little bit of both.
That right there, I would say does not ring any like alarm bells for me. I do the exact same thing.
Okay.
Like after I go out for dinner with my boyfriend, he has a very big sweet tooth. I usually am full after dinner, but like I always just want a few bites. And so I'm like, you're gonna order dessert, right? And it's not because and again, you want to tune in on the feelings that you have. And so are you familiar with the difference between a food rule and a food preference? Right. So for anyone who's not familiar, a food rule is going to be a set of rules or restrictions around food group, food timing. So for example, I can't eat after 7 p.m. or I should only eat carbs 1 meal a day. And a food preference is a decision around food based on actually what you want to do. And the best way to know if it's a food rule or food preference is if it triggers you anxiety to break it. And so for you, does the thought of ordering French fries give you any kind of negative emotions when it comes to anxiety, stress, nervousness, anything like that? Or just it's not something that you really feel like you need?
I think it's not something I feel like I need. I don't think it, I don't really, no, I would say not. It doesn't give me anxiety, or I don't like, oh my God, no, I don't. And furthermore, like, sometimes I would get a side salad, say I'm having something and, the fries have come and the waitress like, oh, sorry, fries have come. And in those situations, again, I again, I've eaten just a few.
Hmm.
But in my mind, I think if I order them, then I would like, I'll eat them all. Right. So I don't know. I feel it's a little bit of both.
Yeah. So for you, what I'm hearing is definitely the weight, the scale, and the body image might be the reason that you still feel like, because basically all that does is it puts you in a box, right? And you think that as long as you're stepping on the scale, you're going to stay within that box. And you're afraid that when you stop stepping on the scale, then it's going to be like all hell breaks loose. Right. And I want
Mhm.
to know there's definitely an underlying reason. There's something going on for you that makes you believe that if you no longer are weighing yourself, then all hell will break loose, which means that there is still not the unconditional permission to eat in the
Right.
way that you really want to. Do
Yeah.
you agree?
Totally agree.
Mm-hmm.
Totally agree. Yeah. And I think that stems from, when I look back over the years and in this dieting culture where, my genetic makeup came from both my parents being overweight. And, if I had a weekend where it was, more of a, I'll just say binge weekend, but just not eating,
Mm-hmm.
it'd be like, I could step on the scale and it'd be like 10 pounds. And I'm like, 10 pounds or so. And it was just, so that's still in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Has that happened of late? Of course not. But it's still there.
Yeah.
But
And
I'm
that's
55 years old, right? So it's been forever, right? So this has only been 5, like probably like between 3 and 5 years. So
Absolutely. And this is why we talk about getting rid of the scale at the very beginning of the program. There's some people, some of the members who are weighing themselves 2 times, 3 times a day. And so for that, we take it more gradually. Like it's not going cold turkey. So we do that gradually. Okay, let's move it down to once a day and then once a week. And there's some who are weighing themselves once a week and they go right in, get rid of the scale. And the reason why it's so scary, but it's going to be one of the most liberating things to get you to that place that you want to be at is because there is still what I'm hearing a lack or some trust that is missing for you between you and your connection to food. Because if you
mhm,
really trusted and if you really knew that you could be around food and pay attention to how your body is speaking to you, and you could really have that deep trust between you and food, there wouldn't be that fear that without that external control, you would completely lose control. Does that make sense?
mhm. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
So, given all of this, is getting rid of the scale something that, and again, I'm here to coach you and to help you see your blind spots. And I definitely have no doubt that there's still resistance. There's still a wall between you and that complete freedom. And that wall is the fear of, because when it comes to intuitive eating, I always explain that I'm not here to make you give up the desire to lose weight. We live
Mhm,
in a extremely fat phobic society, and I even have bad body image days. However, when there is still that resistance to allowing your body to change, you're still trying to control in some
mhm,
manner, right?
mhm. Yeah.
So to get rid of the scale and to no longer determine your success by a number, how does that feel for you? Is that something that you are open to?
Yeah, I think I would be. Yeah, and I have to say it's not that my trainer had said the same thing because I had said to him that I was going to look at the sharpest scale, which I'm sure you're familiar with as well. And he's like, no. Again, because he's trying to get my head around the fact that this is where I'm at and this is where I'm going to be, and that's, what, like, let go of the what you were at
Mm-hmm.
before. So yeah, I think it's feasible. I think it's not a total out. Yeah, I don't think it's.
Yeah.
I think it's achievable. I feel that most likely, I think it would have to go back to, so, I mean, as I mentioned, I've been a lifetime member of Weight Watchers. I guess you're still a lifetime, even though I don't go anymore. But back in those days, you had to weigh in once a month. So I feel like I would have to do probably once a month just to let's just do a check-in. But perhaps it's around having those pants or something a different, I mean, I don't know if that's any better or worse.
Yeah. So
but I feel like
I would say that I would love to like dive deeper into and we talk about body image basically throughout the 12 weeks together because there's so many layers, but I would like to dive a little bit into it now, and I'm curious for you. Let's say that you stopped weighing yourself and you allowed yourself to trust yourself around food, and that your life was no longer dictated by what your body looks like. What are you afraid would happen? What are you afraid would happen if your body did change? What would you make that mean?
well, I think I go back to the same what you said earlier in regards to how I would feel. I would like my self-confidence, I would feel bad. Like I would not be the same, I would feel bad. I would feel not as good. I would,
Okay. And
yeah.
why would you feel bad? Why would you feel not as good?
Because I think it would be I would see, in the mirror that different shape and size. And so.
Yeah. And the reason why I keep kind of peeling the layers and getting deep is most of the time it's not the actual circumstance that brings up feelings for us. It's the interpretation of that circumstance. So what I mean by this is, let's say you did see your body change. Would some of those thoughts that come up for you, probably on a subconscious level, be things like you've let yourself go? You're not doing enough, you're not trying hard enough? Are some of those thoughts underlying for you?
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
And let's say that you kept eating the way that you're eating now. You kept exercising. It sounds like you have a pretty healthy lifestyle with a lot of health promoting behaviors. And so let's say you maintained all of that and your body changed. Would that still mean that you let yourself go?
No, no, but again, I would have to do a lot of self-reflection, and I'd have to be like, okay, what did I change, or what I've been doing? And so, I mean, I think I equate it to, I had an injury this summer, and so my hamstring was pulled, and so I couldn't do a whole lot. And during that time, of course, I lost muscle. And so again, my shape did change. I did change because I lost muscle. I could only do, I only did my upper body. I wasn't able to do my legs at all. So, yeah, I'd feel it'd be hard. I know in that situation when I reflected, yes, I know it's because, my brain tells me I didn't do as much exercise. So that's why my body shape changes. But in this situation, I was injured. There's nothing I could have done differently. And you know what? It's a moment in time. And you know what? I'm back, rehabilitated, and it's back to where it was. So, yeah, I would probably have to do some reflecting, like, why is it changing? Is it something I've done something so I would do some of that. I feel like, to your point, I'm pretty much in tune with my body and with, so it would be something I would have had to have done something differently. So,
and when you stop weighing yourself and you start prioritizing health promoting behaviors and what your lifestyle looks like, what happens is that your priorities change. And so, what I mean by that is, I'll give you an example. I was talking to my group this week. I have been having the worst body image this week. And also, I think it's good to hear because no matter what your body looks like, no matter how long you've been working on body image, no matter how self aware you are, bad body image days happen. And when
Mhm.
you are an intuitive eater, what happens is you will still have bad body image days. You just won't let it ruin your day. It won't be this thing that brings you down, that affects your relationships and your mood. We've all experienced this before where you have a bad body image day, you don't want to go out, you don't want to be touched, you don't want to smile. And so I had a bad body image week, and I kept going along with my regularly scheduled programming. And I do feel like my body, I'm tight in my clothes. And so what I would have done in the past is I would have looked at that and said, I'm doing something wrong. So I'm going to start restricting. I'm going to exercise more. And then it's very easy to spiral down back into that restrictive diet mindset. And what you're saying in that moment is you're saying, my body is more important than my well being. Because now what I've done instead is I paused and you evaluate, right? So I'm feeling uncomfortable in my clothes right now. So let me evaluate my lifestyle. Instead of evaluating if I've been good or not, let me evaluate. Have I been eating pretty much the same way that I normally would have? Yes, I've been going out to dinner a little bit more, which means I've been living my life, right? I've been going out to dinner. I've been enjoying my friends' company. Have I been exercising the same way that I normally would have? Am I getting enough movement in a way that feels good? Yes, I am. Am I sleeping enough? Am I taking care of my stress? Yes, I am. And so when I'm able to reflect instead on what my priorities are, which are to feel good, right? Am I eating enough? Am I eating too much? Am I exercising enough? Am I exercising too much? When I'm able to really focus on that priority of feeling good, not necessarily doing these things to make my bodies change, I realize that I'm happy with the way that I've been living. My lifestyle has been making me happy. And instead of seeing myself as letting myself go, I see it as letting myself live. And when you look at it that way, and I look at my whole life from a lens of me at 80 years old on my deathbed, I'm not going to care about that month where I felt a little bit tighter in my clothes. I'm going to care about the memories that I made by going out to dinner. I'm going to care about being present in the relationships that I have with people and having the pizza when I really wanted the pizza instead of the salad, right? And so your priorities change and you look at everything through a lens of, am I enjoying myself? Am I still taking care of myself? Right? Like, this isn't about throwing health out the window. I did evaluate. Are all of my health promoting habits still there? If anything, my morning routine has evolved. I'm even, taking care of myself even more. And yet my body has changed. And maybe this is a season of my life where my body does change. March and April usually is that time where people feel uncomfortable in their bodies because you move less during the winter. You eat a little bit more because there's nothing else to do. And people tend to start moving a little bit more in the summer. And when you can accept that there is that cyclical cycle and it does happen, your life there's not like that cloud over your head of your weight and your body and how it affects your sense of self-worth. It's there, but it doesn't control your life. Does that make sense?
Totally. And I can totally relate to what you've just said. Like, and that's exactly like, I think of this past week, I'm going to enjoy life. So totally. And, thankfully I haven't, I would get on a scale on Saturday and see what has happened. But so I feel that I'm totally there with you. And I do that all the time, but I feel over time, same analogy. If my pants were, tight and was going on what, 1, 2, 3, 4, then I think it would set me into so again, I feel exactly as you said, I'm the trust is, I'm not there yet as far as the trust.
Yeah.
And again, I can imagine it, well, you've been doing it for how long, and it still emerges once in a while for you. So I
Hmm.
imagine it's just a matter of keep going and keep listening to your podcast, keep doing all the things I'm doing. And as I said, I've read the books and
Yeah.
reread the books and read that. And I've got the journal and the podcast and I'm doing the audiobook. So continuing to do it because I'm still not there yet.
Yeah, and I would say that for you, a really good place to put your attention is on the body image part, because underlying all of our beliefs around food is the fear of how it's going to affect our bodies. And instead of looking
Mm-hmm.
at everything through a lens of how is this going to change my body, looking at it instead of through a lens of am I feeling good in my body? Am I taking care of my health? And am I enjoying my life? If all
Mm-hmm.
of those things all those ducks are in order, then your body is going to do what it needs to do. And when we
Yep.
let go of that control, you're going to be able to kind of take a sigh. And it's really hard when you are a lifelong dieter. That body image
Mm-hmm.
piece is a big one. But I would
Mm-hmm.
say that if you can, a good first step would be to at least try once a month,
Yep.
reducing that frequency of weighing yourself. Eventually, I haven't weighed myself in like 2 or 3 years. I have no plans to do it. So eventually,
Okay.
if you are able to really disconnect yourself from that number on the scale, and for anyone who is curious, you actually do not need to be weighed at your doctor's office. And so you are allowed to ask to not be weighed if they
Yeah.
insist. Well, if they insist, you probably have a fat phobic doctor, because it really is, there's like one or two reasons why why they do need to weigh yourself, and one of them is for anesthesia purposes, to make sure they're giving
Mm-hmm.
you the right dose. Most of the time, if you're going for a checkup, they're not putting you under, and so you're allowed to ask not to get weighed. And if that really is like a cause of resistance, then you can turn around, ask to not know that number, because really you are so much more than a number. You are so much more than your
Totally.
body. Your body is a vessel
Mm-hmm.
that you walk around in. So I would say that that's a good place to start. And then having a lot of spending some time on body image and uncovering what those fears are would be
Mm-hmm.
really beneficial for you.
Okay. So sorry, I know our time's up, but I follow up on that. So the other thing that I've done, and this is more from the perspective of because I really have been focusing on some strength training, and so probably not also a good idea to, like, and I take photos also just to see progress over like on a monthly basis.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably also not a good thing.
I would say that instead of focusing on external validation, once again, how can we tune inwards? Okay, am I lifting heavier? Am I
Higher weight.
feeling
Yeah.
stronger? So always you want to
Yeah.
come back to that internal, and also like, how am I feeling when I'm working out? Is it getting easier for
Yeah.
me? Instead, because
Yeah.
again, you're letting that external validation dictate
Yeah.
your success.
Yeah. Okay. That's makes sense. That's nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you have
Okay.
any lingering questions before we wrap things up?
No, that's been interesting, and as I said, I'm curious. I'm very curious on the topic always, and I'll read a lot about it. And I think my biggest challenge will be I'm going away for the month of April to Portugal, and so I will be away from the scale for a month. So it'll be a good, and I will be living.
Hmm.
So it'll be we plan on living there, like we're living. We're not tourists, we're living. So it'll be just a different location, and so it's not like it's not vacation. I'm not
Hmm.
thinking of it as a free for all for 4 weeks. By no means. We'll be living there, and we'll be just so I think that's a great sort of
Yeah.
opportunity to start.
And I give you the challenge while you're there is, whenever that thought comes up for you of, okay, how is my body gonna look like or feel or weigh when I get back? that's always like, we don't realize how much those little micro thoughts actually affect us. And so I encourage you to, if you can, not weigh yourself when you get back, but as much as possible, manage those thoughts while you're there, because I want you to be able to tune inwards. What do I really want to eat? How do I want to move my body? All coming from that intuition, you're going to be able to tune inwards a lot more and create more of that trust between you, your body, and food. Yeah.
That's good.
I hope that you enjoyed that coaching session as much as I did. As a reminder, if you want to have an opportunity to have your own coaching session, then you can head to the show notes where you can apply for your own coaching over coffee. And if you haven't done so already, make sure to also head to the show notes where you can sign up for the 7-day intuitive eating challenge. It is absolutely free. It is so fun, so informative. You've got 3 live trainings. You get coaching from me. You get worksheets. You got all the steps that you need to be successful on your intuitive eating journey. So head to the show notes or sabrinamangao.com/challenge to sign up. Now go ahead and enjoy your day. And if no one has reminded you today, you are worthy. You are so much more than your body, and you are deserving of a positive, healthy relationship with food. Ciao, you guys. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you found it valuable, I would love if you would share it with someone you know that could benefit. If you're loving the show, don't forget to subscribe over on Apple Podcasts so you don't miss a single episode. I really love hearing feedback from you, so please leave a rating and review over on Apple to help us get in the ears of more people who need it the most. Finally, come hang out with me on Instagram at Sabrina Mangao Health for more educational content and get up close and personal with me. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you on the next episode. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you found it valuable, I would love if you would share it with someone you know that could benefit. If you're loving the show, don't forget to subscribe over on Apple Podcasts so you don't miss a single episode. I really love hearing feedback from you, so please leave a rating and review over on Apple to help us get in the ears of more people who need it the most. Finally, come hang out with me on Instagram at Sabrina Mangao Health for more educational content and get up close and personal with me. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you on the next episode.